Welcome back in, everybody. We appreciate you joining us on YouTube to the show that has yet to be named. I am Ben Parker. We've got an Expos fan with us tonight. We've got another Expos fan with us tonight. We've got a Cleveland Browns fan with us tonight. We are loaded. Part of the crew is absent this week, off on vacation and spring break, and who knows what else they're into. But we are here and you are here, and that's what's important. We've got a board full of topics we're going to jump into, a lot of things to talk about. Let's get right to it. Right off the bat, we're going to look at the NFL draft. First question: team that you might want or expect to trade up in the first round of the NFL draft. You can take it either way. Shane is with us. Connor's with us. Shane, I'm going to let you start this off, and then we'll give it to Connor. Shane?
Okay, Ben, for me, I'm going to go back to if you hearken from some prior episodes. I think the Patriots would be wise to trade back, and I think the Minnesota Vikings are a team that are building draft capital to be able to make a move. I think they've decided that they're probably going to have to go after a quarterback. I'm not sure where they're looking, especially after these last couple of pro days, but I think Minnesota's a team to make a move. I think Connor's Cleveland Browns also might be one. If you're in the back of the draft and you think you have some things figured out, it might be a good time to sneak up there and make some moves.
I like the Vikings. Connor, what you got, man?
Yeah, so I was also with the Vikings. I disagree with the Patriots, though. I think that they should stay there at three. It is a quarterback heavy draft class. And with the Vikings, like you mentioned, they're at pick 11. They're going to have to move up to get a guy that they want. I was thinking more along the lines of the Chargers or the Cardinals at pick 4 or 5 to where they were going to move up at. I think both those teams have a lot more pieces in play and more the ability to trade back. But I think that the Patriots kind of need to make the move now. New head coach, new system getting involved. It's time to get a new quarterback. You've got to replace Tom eventually. And this is probably the draft class to do it in.
So one of our Expos fans tonight, that is Shane, who lives way up north close to the border, is also a massive Patriots fan. Shane, lay it on us again with the Patriots. Connor's thinking they should stay. You're thinking maybe drop back. How you feeling on that?
Well, I agree on Connor's point. The Patriots need to make that decision. If you have a quarterback that you think is the one to go to, like I said, say if Jaden Daniels makes it to that third pick, I make that move. If I think that there's a quarterback that's going to sit around, if I'm the Patriots, I would be happy with Bo Nix, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, some of those back half guys, because like I said before, I don't think Drake May is the answer. So if that's the third choice that I get as a Patriot, I trade back, get some draft capital, and pick another quarterback. I think there's so many holes right now on the Patriots team that quarterback's not the only one you need, but I do understand, like Connor said, with it being a quarterback heavy draft, this might be the year to make that move.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just hoping for chaos. I want to see the Giants trade up. I want to see the Cowboys trade up. I want to see the Rams trade up. I want to see Kansas City trade up for one of those top wide receivers. I know I was only supposed to list one, but those are like four teams that I would love to just see take a bomb and just throw it over right in the middle, just splash everything, right? So those are four teams I would love to see it just for the heck of pure chaos. But we'll talk more on the draft in the weeks ahead. That'll be it for tonight. Let's move on to some other more important things. I want to know uniforms in the AFC North, another best and worst segment. We do a lot of best and worst around here. We're going to continue that theme, but tonight is uniforms. So, Connor, I'm going to let you start this one. Best and worst uniforms in the AFC North.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time looking at these uniforms as a Browns fan, but I got to say, of them, the Browns definitely have the most bland uniform. It really hasn't changed much over the years. And my favorite has to be the Bengals because, especially when they have some of the more like fun uniforms where they introduce a lot more like the tiger stripes and stuff instead of just on the helmet. I think that those are probably the most fun, whereas the Ravens and Steelers are more similar to the Browns and just kind of keeping it very traditional.
It is a traditional division for the most part, with one exception. Shane, where do you feel on this?
So I agree a lot with Connor on that one. I like the solid, reliable Browns Steelers. This is what we are. This is how we're going to be. But I think they're probably the weakest out of that bunch. Connor already mentioned the Bengals. I do like what they've done in the changes in their uniforms lately. But for me, I love the Ravens jerseys, like that purple and black, especially when they do the colorways and some of the other ones. I think it's always been a good set for them. I think like also on the marketing side, that purple and black, you know, is always going to be able to make a run on people, even if they don't care about the Ravens. They're going to make that a buy. You know, it's like the Dolphins. Somebody will wear a Dolphins jersey with no interest in Tua, but it's the bright green, it's the bright orange. You know, it's a little bit different out there.
Yeah, so I actually like all four uniforms in the division, but we're picking best and worst. So my favorite is Cincinnati. I've loved them basically ever since they redesigned in the early 80s. I've loved their uniform all the way through. I just love the stripes on the helmet and the black and the white. I just really, really love it. Especially the stripes on the helmet is what's really cool to me. I just love that. For me personally, and Shane, I actually think you're right when you look at nationally. Me personally, the Ravens are the worst. Not because it's an ugly uniform. I'm just a traditionalist. I love my traditional kind of uniforms, and of course, Baltimore's is not. It's a modern look, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were picking, they would be in last, only because of that. It's not a good bad looking uniform. It's a good looking uniform, but I just like my traditional stuff. So, any last thoughts on this particular division and the uniforms?
No.
No, we're done. Let's move on. Question number three for the night. Topic number three. This will be a little bit more involved, so we'll sit on it for a little bit longer than we usually do. The Kansas City Chiefs now, over the past, say, 5 and 6 seasons, are starting to look awfully similar to what the New England Patriots looked like back in the early 2000s, especially in the winning pattern. So basically 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. Question for the night is, what specifically does Kansas City need to do to keep that up in order to keep up this elite level of winning and actually winning Super Bowls, not just division titles, but winning Super Bowls? What's a couple of specific things that they need to do to keep that up over, say, the next decade? Connor, you're up first.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I noticed while I was going through is that their defense has been just wildly fluctuating in terms of consistency over, the last 5 years during this run. They've gone from rank 25 in the league to 13, back down to 19, up to 10. And then this year they were a top three unit in the league. I mean, they truly did amazing, but you can't rely on Patrick Mahomes to keep covering you all the time. Like eventually that is going to run out. And that kind of brings me to the next point with they've got to find him more offensive weapons. I mean, he's got Pacheco, he's got Travis Kelsey. But other than that, like this year, he didn't really have a true wide receiver one. Rasheed Rice is starting to break out, but it's, a slow build for that. They finally went and added Hollywood Brown now that they don't have Tyreek Hill there anymore. But you just got to give him more to work with. He can't keep working with Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, who we saw a myriad of issues with just those two guys alone. I mean, he's got to have more outlets, especially with Travis Kelsey getting up there in age and getting close to that point where he might get ready to retire soon. He's got 2 rings already. They're chasing a third this year. It might be kind of the end of the road for him. So they've got to find a way to replace that and get consistency on defense.
Shane, you probably saw, I'm sure you did, the beginning of that Patriots dynasty. And so, scheme wise and skill position wise, it's all different. But in terms of the winning, it is awfully similar. So what does Kansas City need to do to kind of keep that up over the next decade?
Well, and I think they're eerily similar, Ben. So I was a Patriots fan, most of my life, and Drew Bledsoe was my favorite quarterback. So him getting injured, leading the Tom Brady coming in, is similar to not necessarily the level, but Alex Smith leaving
Yep.
Kansas City because they already knew Patrick Mahomes was going to be the quarterback for him. I think they're also eerily similar in that they've made a decision that they have a strong quarterback. They look for one strong offensive piece, and then you're going to fill in a bunch of part timers, and you make the decision on when to get rid of them. Kansas City, as Connor mentioned, doesn't have a number one wide receiver right now. They made that move for Brown. I think they're looking for another offensive weapon. They have a great tight end. I think Connor hit on the most important thing. So the same thing the Patriots did defensively is you need to decide who your most important elements are on that defense. And they've done exactly like the Patriots. You find strong corners that can handle their business man on man, and then you get a little bit of a defensive rush. So they decided Chris Jones is an important part. We're going to pay him up front. We need him to be an attack this. They got lucky with Krolofkus. He played great for them. He was a little bit later in the draft. They made a good move for him. He puts pressure on strong corners, and when they get too high, then you trade them out or you don't pay them. They make the free agency. Kansas City has done that again this year. I think those are the moves that fit the same bill. Spagnuolo is always going to be able to move things around, and Kansas City's done a great job of pulling in parts that did, okay fill-in jobs for other teams, bring them into their system, let them play 2 or 3 downs on defense, switch people around and bring pressure that way. Like Connor said, and I'm sure you've mentioned many times before when you're talking to Kansas City fans, Ben, I think they always are looking for another offensive weapon.
Yeah, you both mentioned that, and of course, I'm literally campaigning for that this offseason for Kansas City and their weapons. So I won't hit that dead horse anymore tonight. I will add one more thing to it, and that is keep themselves cap flexible. So whereas we've seen a lot of teams like the Eagles, Saints, Bills, Buccaneers all try to just keep a bunch of guys, and you get very top heavy financially that way. Keep yourselves cap flexible. So after Jones and Mahomes, you're going to have to let a lot of other people continue to go in order to stay cap flexible. You can't keep trying to keep everybody. So as long as they stay cap flexible, keep Patrick Mahomes happy. However you have to do it, they should keep winning. So we'll see. All right, I think that's it for that topic. Let's move on to Shane, your favorite team, the New England Patriots. We talked about them. Bill Belichick is now gone, but he struggled to win after Brady left. We won't dive into necessarily what that means legacy-wise, but I do want to ask the question to you guys tonight. What does the Patriots specific in general and Gerard Mayo specifically need to do that maybe Bill wasn't doing? And maybe that's nothing. Maybe it's just, hey, different direction. But what mistakes was Bill making during his last couple of seasons? Or what was he just not able to fix that Gerard Mayo needs to in order to keep his job after 2 or 3 seasons? Shane, I'll let you get the first dibs on this one.
Okay, so this is a hard one to say with what we've already talked about before with the amount of winning and things like that. But I think at some point Belichick got to the point to where he was always considering himself the smartest man in the room and made those decisions on that, which is great. I mean, his system brought those players in and things like that. But when you trust too much in your system and not bringing in talent, eventually the more talented teams are going to beat you, either by luck or by system. So if you don't have a shutdown corner anymore, but you play that same system, you're going to get toasted. When you put Mac Jones in at quarterback and expect him to run the team, you don't have any other offensive weapons. He can't carry a team like that. So I think that happens a lot when you get through the process like that. As the Patriots win, the one thing, as you just mentioned on that end, Ben, with Kansas City, they've done a great job of deciding when they need to change things up. So, you have more of a running game with Hines-Claire. You have other things, and the Patriots did the same thing. But if you don't have the talent, it doesn't matter. As another Patriots coach, Bill Parcells said, you got to let me shop for the groceries as well. And if you don't have solid groceries, it doesn't matter what talent you have in the kitchen, that meal's not going to be great. And I think that's kind of what happened these last couple of years. And, Tom Brady, for as much as what he did for the Patriots, covered up a lot of deficiencies. And once he was out the door, they became pretty glaring, especially on offense.
It's a great point. The Parcells reference always makes me smile every time I hear it and think of it. Connor, what you got, man?
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking off of Shane with the hubris of Bill Belichick. I mean, he just kind of kept recycling some of those same coordinators that we saw year in and year out. I mean, he brought Matt Patricia back a few times. He brought he went to the Raiders. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head, but I mean, he kept bringing in the kind of those same guys to continue running that same system. But after Brady left, he didn't kind of get the breaks with talent that he was. You weren't getting the Brady tax is what I'll call it, for lack of a better term, where people are willing to take a pay cut to come play with the best player in the league. I mean, that is just what's going to happen. And without adjusting for that not being there anymore, and relying on those same guys that have been running out the same system. Where, with Mac Jones, even as an Alabama fan, he's not an NFL caliber starting quarterback, and especially not with the weapons that you're giving him. I mean, with Jacoby Not Myers, N'Keal Harry, and an aging
Mm-hmm.
Devontae Parker, you're not going to be able to make things happen. I mean, the biggest splash moves that they've done in the last few years was when they brought in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith in the same season, trying to recreate that, tight end duo that they used to have back in 2012 to 2014. And that didn't pan out because they didn't have the rest of the pieces in play to make it worthwhile. Bill Belichick was a great defensive coach, but without the ability of the offense to stay on the field, the defense is going to get gassed and not able to keep you in games like they used to be.
Yeah, y'all both hit on talent, and that's where I would end up too. And I appreciate y'all both not mentioning quarterback because that's the obvious thing, but y'all went deeper on that. So than just, hey, they need a quarterback. This was something I felt I saw even back in the late 2000s from Bill. And there were, listen, I think more often than not, he was the smartest guy in the room. I really do. I actually believe that. It's, for that time period, I think more often than not, he was, even though he had Brady, he was the smartest guy in the room. It did feel like, though, there were times that he honestly thought he could just take any fifth round draft pick and plug them in and win. And I felt like at a certain point, and he went on to several more Super Bowls after that, of course, and one more. It felt like at a certain point, Shane, you referenced it, you got to have some kind of talent there to make all that system work. And it felt like the well ran dry a little bit. It felt like Brady was making up for some things there toward the tail end. And then when Brady was gone, it was all obvious also that the talent pool had been diluted as well. Shane, it's your team. Final word on it.
Like I said, and Connor brought up, these Patriot teams that they did, as much as you want to give Brady and some other quarterbacks that shout on what they can do for a team. I mean, when this team was humming, although they didn't win a Super Bowl, they had Randy Moss. Like, you need to have weapons. And to kind of funnel back to the Belichick Parcells connection, that defense for the Giants was great. But if you take LT out of that equation, how great is that defense? Like, having a weapon, offensively or defensively, where you need to watch out, that's the move. Cowboys fans, Micah Parsons has made your life a lot easier because now you have a weapon that other offenses are worried about regardless. And he might be the most dangerous now that Aaron Donald is retired. You have a victim where you're going to have to watch out on that defensive line coming after your quarterback and making life hell for your guys.
You
Yeah,
got to have those
absolutely agree.
guys that need to be game planned for
Mm-hmm.
on both sides of the ball. That's just what it boils down to.
Yeah, you got to have some difference makers. You can't do without any difference makers. All right, that's enough for that for tonight. We're moving on quickly. We've still got three more things to hit. Time for our question of the night. And I always throw in one that's a little bit on the ridiculous side just to get our group to think a little bit differently than what they might normally would think in front of everybody. Tonight's question is this: would you rather, this is in the would you rather category, have brunch with the Queen of England or front row tickets to a Taylor Swift concert? Now, maybe some of y'all in the audience are thinking I want both, and some of y'all are thinking I want neither, but you got to pick one over the other tonight. So, brunch with the Queen of England, going to be a little stuffy. You're going to have your best dress on. Remember all your P's and Q's. Go through security, etc. And then you got the Taylor Swift concert. So I'm interested to see where y'all go with this tonight. Connor, you're up.
Well, I have been wrestling with this for a little while now, ever since you told me. Uh, but honestly, I've got to go with the brunch with the Queen of England. I don't think a personal setting with her would be as stuffy as you're making it out to be. And the amount of knowledge and life experience that woman had was just ridiculous. I mean, she lived for 96 years through World War II, through all these crazy events. I mean, just being able to pick her brain, I think that'd be incredibly entertaining and just so informative.
All right. I'm curious to see where Shane's going to go. Shane?
Okay, so I mean, as you are one, Ben, as I know that Corey is as well, I am also a dance dad. So I brought in a special guest selection.
Yes.
This is my daughter, me. Her selection. Would you rather be with the Queen, Emmy, or do you want to go see Taylor Swift?
Taylor Swift.
Okay, so it's definitely a
Yes.
Taylor Swift for us, Ben. Um, as I said with the dance dad, you kind of lose your choices on what that would be. I agree with Connor's statement. The Queen, just an amazing life, and there's also some secrets that I'm sure that if you could get her in like a real one-on-one setting, that I'd love to hear about. But as you know, with the dance dads, you tend to make decisions for the best of your daughter because if you don't, they're going to tell you how many times they missed out on that Taylor Swift concerts. So I think Emme made that decision for me pretty soundly.
Shane's daughter, that is awesome. Thank you for being on. Any other words of wisdom while we're still here? I mean, anything else that you want to tell the audience tonight?
Anything else you want to mention, Emme?
No, that's it, I think. All right.
You're all good?
Okay. Well, stay on as long as you want. You're welcome here because all opinions are welcome. Listen, you're right about the dance dad thing. And I think a lot of dads have been to Taylor Swift concerts or have been sitting in the parking lot of a Taylor Swift concert who otherwise would never even think about going to a Taylor Swift event. Me personally, I would head to brunch. My thinking is I'm going to eat really well. Maybe I got to get all dressed up. Maybe it's not that. Maybe I don't remember my manners. I just figure I'm going to eat really well. I like to eat really well, so that's where I figured I'd go. Also, the networking. You never know who else is going to be there. So you might get hooked up with somebody really important besides the Queen of England. So that's
I
that's what
appreciate
I was
that you stick
thinking.
with the food too, Ben. I
I
mean,
know.
when we
I
came to
respect
brunch
that.
last week, you were like, "Hey, I'm gonna take everything that's available for breakfast and move that." Like, I don't know if it's finger sandwiches or what it's gonna be with the Queen. So, if I go to Taylor Swift, maybe Emmy and I can hang out with Travis Kelsey or Jason makes an appearance, so we can kind of great connections on that way too.
It's a great point. Front row tickets, front row seats. You never know. I mean, could be a lot worse in terms of networking.
She might be worth
All right.
more than the crown right now as well. So
That's another point.
That is true.
Probably more recognizable, I would assume. All right. We're moving on to our 10, 5, and 1 segment. I need to remind the audience this is something we started last week. We'll probably run it through the middle of June or the end of June, somewhere in there, to see where the guys are. Last week, we bet on the men's Final Four. And again, in case anybody's calling the feds on us, tell them to go back to their stations because this is fake money. It's not real money swapping hands here, okay? So in case we're in a state that doesn't allow such, this is fake money being tossed around here. But last week we bet on the one team to get into the Final Four. The entire cast, lost their bets. Shane came the closest, but Tennessee still fell just short of that. So we all lost our bets. We're back tonight for another 10, 5, and 1 segment. Basically, you make your pick and then you bet 10, 5, or $1 on it. Tonight is the women's Final Four winner. We're down to 4 teams now. The storylines have been good. The games have been pretty good. Shane, I'll let you pick first. Who you got winning the Final Four?
you see, last week I went away from the chalk. And even after seeing what Caitlin Clark did last night, a couple hours away from me, I still pick South Carolina. I think the team is too loaded. I think they'll be able to find a way to at least slow Clark down. But I think Iowa is their biggest worry. With what Caitlin Clark did, with what the players surrounding her were last night, I think that's going to be the strong point. UConn is one of those teams where they'll play Iowa tough. I still see those 2 top teams are going to be the ones that are going to play in the championship game, and I'm going to go with South Carolina, and I'll go big money on that.
All right, $10 from Shane on South Carolina. Connor, what you looking at here?
Yeah, see, I like the South Carolina pick, don't get me wrong, but I think that Caitlin Clark is just about to cement her legacy as the greatest women's player in college basketball and potentially even just the greatest college basketball player ever. I mean, she's got the records, she's got the threes in the game in the postseason, scoring all time. And yeah, like South Carolina is a better team, and Iowa's probably the worst rebounding team in the tournament that's left. But I can't look at what Caitlin Clark has been doing, and it's all been kind of leading to this in her senior year to go out and cut down the nets. Like it's time, it's going to happen. She's going to be the one remaining. And if y'all have watched the Tricky 50 at all, y'all know I like to go big, so we're putting $10 on it.
$10 all the way. I'm gonna do $10 tonight as well, but it's gonna be on the Gamecocks. There's just no
Mm.
way I can put money on it. UConn scares me a little bit, only in that Ari Emma has been there and done that, and they've got one of the better players in the country. So that part does scare me. But still, I can't do anything but put $10 down on the Gamecocks. Dawn Staley has them absolutely rolling. They are not unbeatable, but they are absolutely rolling, and they're this close. Nobody's beat them this year, and they can beat you in so many different ways. So I can't do anything else but put the money down on the Gamecocks. And if they lose, I put the money down on the best team still. So that's where I'm going to go. All right. That's it for all of our topics. We've down to our final 60. Shane, what's your final 60, bud?
My final 60 to go with the dance dad. For those fathers, and even if you're not a father, my 60 seconds goes to the show Bluey. As a
Yes.
dad, you end up having to watch an awful lot of cartoons that they might not be your favorite. You might not think they're super funny. I have a fan right here of Bluey as well. So I mean, that's my 60. I think it's a great show. It's funny for parents. It's great for kids. And I think that's the new move for cartoons. I just figured I'd fill that in since we didn't have Austin here to give a movie review. Hopefully, Connor's got something stored up for me as well.
Yeah, listen,
Yes.
Connor's got something in store, but I don't want to jump off Bluey too quick because I've watched a ton of Bluey. Almost every kids cartoon there is to see over the past 10 years, I've seen it because the kids need something, and Bluey's been right up there. We've watched every episode. They still watch it. They're like 10, 9, and 7 right now. They still watch it when it's time to go to sleep. I'll let them kind of leave that on in the background. So I absolutely love the show. Connor, what you got in store for us, man?
Yeah, so my usual co-host Austin, he's been doing the movie reviews. I figured since I was stepping in and kind of taking his spot this week, I'd fill in for that. Uh, my movie is one that y'all probably never heard of. It's called Velocipaster. I am a big fan of terrible movies. It just brings me great joy to watch them. This is one about a pastor who takes a trip over to China and turns into a velociraptor, kind of similar to a werewolf situation. The special effects are horrible. His velociraptor form is that T Rex costume that you see, the inflatable one. And he ends up fighting ninjas in America. So I mean, it's really got everything that you want in a cheesy B movie. And I just found out while doing some research for tonight that they are releasing a sequel to the movie this year. So super excited for that. It is definitely like a 2 out of 10 quality movie, but a 10 out of 10 for just pure stupid enjoyability.
All right, I love it. Thank you so much for the movie. That is Velocipaster. Am I saying that right?
Velocipaster, you are. Yep.
What one of us, and I've got one too, what one of us doesn't have a friend or a relative who just eats that stuff up? The absolute worst movies out there, they just love it all. All right, Connor, thank you very much. I've got a brother named Matt who loves those B movies. I mean, from that crap from back in the late '60s and all through the '70s, some of the most horrible stuff you could put out there. Loves it. His favorite movie is called The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. I think came out in the early 2000s. I'm not sure. Horrible movie. He's watched it like 20 times. He is way funnier quoting it than it actually is when you watch it yourself. But yes, fits right in with the
100%.
crew. Yes. All right, I think that's it, everybody. Shane, one more time, your daughter's for the audience. Your daughter's name is Emmy. Is that right?
That is correct, Emmy Shea.
All right. Well, Emmy Shea, thank you so much for being a part of the show tonight. Connor, if you want to, as we tell everybody goodbye, let everybody know about y'all's podcast again before we shut it down.
Yeah, so you can find me and Austin, who's normally on here, at Tricky Takes. It's Tricky with two eyes, and we are very similar to what Ben here is. Just a couple of buddies getting around talking about sports. It is baseball season, so we are full swing on that right now, and look forward to having y'all come over and check us out.
Yeah, go check it out. Shane, thank you as always for being here. Connor, thank you for being with us this week. Those of you in the audience, thank you as always for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.